welcome back to the What Happened podcast.
What happened?
It has 2 question marks. It has a ton of technical issues.
And a new picture.
Oh yeah, we got a new picture.
That was my entire contribution to this while you do all the tech things.
Yeah. So today what were we talking about? We're talking about some weird Arctic exploration
Some weird
stuff.
Arctic survival. Maybe so. At least it's survival on my end. I don't know about your end.
My end's a little weirder.
Some survive, some don't.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Take it
Sounds
away,
fair.
Owen.
Oh, all right. Oh, it's my turn?
Yeah,
Oh, we did
you're
say
up
that it's my
first.
turn. All right. So I titled this Stranded in the Arctic.
You put a title on yours?
Yeah, it's like 3 pages. My high school English teacher would be like really proud of me right now, dude.
Mine's called Untitled Document.
All right. Is that what it is? That the story?
Nope.
So, my story, Stranded in the Arctic, it follows the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1914 through 1917. Now, this expedition is quite famous. It actually didn't complete its main mission, but it is world-renowned for its show of endurance and survival.
Oh, is this the Witwicky expedition?
Isn't Witwicky like Transformers? Like Sam Witwicky?
He wasn't real?
Wait, is there a plot when there's like, oh, you're right,
Yeah,
yeah,
because Megatron needs
yeah,
the glasses.
isn't that like a neck? Oh, that's what it is.
Because
the glasses.
there's a map to
Yeah, and his
Unicron
like grandfather
or,
did it,
or-
right?
yeah, on the inside of on the inside of Shia LaBeouf's granddad's glasses,
So,
there's a map to the
did his-
Allspark.
Did his grandfather put that in his glasses, or did a massive robot somehow engrave it into?
He was okay, Owen. This is the most important Arctic expedition. Witwicky was in the Arctic,
Okay.
and then he finds Megatron, and then he's like, "Whoa, a giant robot!" And then he blasts a map to the Allspark on the inside of his glasses.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But then Megatron forgets it. I don't know how.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay, so to go back to the thing that actually happened. So this is called the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, and it was headed by Sir Ernest Shackleton. Do you know anything about Sir Ernest Shackleton, Ryan?
I've heard of Mr. Shackleton in the past.
All right, so Mr. Shackleton was born in February 1874 and is renowned as a famous Irish Antarctic explorer who led 3 British expeditions to Antarctica. Shackleton first set sail to Antarctica in 1901 on board the Discovery expedition led by Captain Robert Falcon Scott. This expedition was set to be 3 years of Antarctic travel, but sadly Shackleton was sent home early due to health concerns. He once again journeyed to Antarctica, this time on the Nimrod expedition of 1907
Like the
to
Nimrod
1909.
expedition?
Yeah, I mean, I call like my friends Nimrods.
Yeah.
Probably sounded a lot cooler back in 1907. So there, him and 3 others set a record for the furthest south latitude reached at 88 degrees south, and for those who don't know maps like myself, that's 88 miles from the South Pole.
Okay, here's a question, Owen. Was their goal to find some sort of trade route? Like, what were they doing there?
I honestly just think it was to explore a almost unknown continent at
Okay.
that time.
Okay.
I think it was just the British were very explorer-y, and they just wanted to do more of their British shit and just claim stuff that wasn't theirs.
You know, the sun never sets over the British Empire, Owen.
I mean, now I think so. Technically, actually, they got some islands every now and then.
Pretty sure, don't they still own the Falklands? Is that a thing?
That's north of Britain, right?
No, that's next to Argentina.
Oh, that's south? Probably. I mean, I know that they own Bermuda. Been there many times. It's a lovely place. Where was I? Oh, yeah, okay. So it was 88 miles away from the South Pole. For this achievement, Shackleton was knighted upon his arrival home by King Edward VII.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
So it's Sir Shackleton?
Yeah. That's why I addressed him multiple times as Sir Ernest Shackleton.
Imagine busting that out at a party.
I honestly, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, everyone I read about is knighted. But then again, it seems like everyone who is knighted actually did shit with their lives.
That makes sense.
Like, isn't what's that guy's name from the Beatles? Isn't he knighted? Jesse McCartney's dad, Paul McCartney. Isn't he Sir Paul McCartney?
I think so.
Yeah. That's embarrassing. I just addressed him as Jesse McCartney's dad. All right, so the feeling of almost reaching the true South Pole wasn't enough for Shackleton. He wanted more, but unfortunately for him, another explorer named Roald Amundsen, could be saying that completely wrong, would make it there first. In 1911, Roald and his crew were the first ever to reach the South Pole. With the heart-wrenching truth that he wouldn't go down in history as the first man to step foot in the South Pole, he devised a better plan. He wanted to hike from one end of Antarctica to the other.
I think I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, so he essentially just wanted to take like a very like unknown, vastly unexplored continent and just wanted to walk across it.
That sounds like a leisure activity I'm not really.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't walk across, like, I don't know, like, North America. Probably, let's say Canada, because that's more just, like, one climate the whole way. But Antarctica is just, like, cold the whole time.
I mean, dude, I won't even, like, walk.
To, like, CVS?
Yeah, it's like 2 minutes walk from here, but I drive every time.
I get it. That wasn't his thing. He didn't like to drive back in 1907, you know?
Yeah.
In 1914... Shackleton set out with 2 teams to complete the monstrous task. So he devised a plan, knowing that the trip would be too much for just one crew to handle. One team set out from South America, or from the Weddell Sea in South America, and the other team set out from Tasmania, which was known as the Ross Sea.
Oh, Tasmania.
I've actually really wanted to go to Tasmania.
Never mind, we'll get there.
Your story?
Yeah.
Did we link again?
We linked.
Ooh. So the South American party would be aboard the Endurance, and the Tasmanian party would be aboard the Aurora. The Ross Sea party, or the Tasmanian party, would establish camp in McMurdo Sound, and from there, their goal was to establish supply depots across the Shackleton's route. So Shackleton's crew didn't bring as much supplies, but they were the ones going to complete the actual journey, and then the Tasmanian guys were going to go there, set up like waypoints and like outposts and like tents and stuff for the guys that were crossing completely.
So that way they don't have to carry
exactly
all this stuff.
Yeah, so they would have a lighter load,
okay.
but they would have certain destinations to stop at, ensuring their like actual survival and that they'd actually be able to finish it. So Shackleton and his crew set off on their journey from South America on board the ship Endurance. Due to unusually cold temperatures, Shackleton's ship was stuck in the ice hundreds of miles away from the continent. With the ship weighed down from ice and being pushed from side to side due to the intensely strong ocean currents. I guess like the Antarctic Ocean around there is like probably what I've heard is not fun to sail in.
It doesn't sound great.
Yeah, you got like ice and stuff.
You got ice and narwhals everywhere.
Are narwhals North Pole? I don't know. I just like Buddy the Elf, man. North Pole, there's a narwhal.
I have no idea.
There was no escape in sight for the ship and her crew. The crew did everything they could to keep the ship afloat. They were breaking off ice, throwing things overboard to try to keep the boat as light as possible while just like being stuck in the ice. Essentially, they just wanted to wait for warmer temperatures for the boat to be released from the ice so they could just sail away. Didn't work. They waited and waited, but the ice never gave way. Eventually, 6 full months later, the ice would prevail. On October 27th, 6 months after being stuck, Shackleton ordered his crew of 28 men to abandon ship. So they waited for 6 full months in the ice, being like, no, it'll warm up.
Yeah, they do that a lot when you go to the cold places.
That's just a thing. I mean, we just have like icebreakers now, don't we?
Yeah, that's just a thing back then. Is you're like, well, we're stuck. Guess we're gonna wait here.
How do you have that? Like, you packed well.
Yeah.
Like I don't pack well for like a day trip.
Bro, I forget my keys every time I go to my car.
So with the loss of their ship, the crew knew that they would never be able to complete their initial goal. Their main goal was now obviously just like, fucking surviving the Arctic. Is it called the Arctic still? If it's because Arctic's the
Antarctic.
Yeah, so Alright, so I guess surviving the Antarctic. I'm probably just gonna keep saying Arctic.
That's fine.
So the ship, being stuck in the ice, had drifted 1,186 miles in 281 days.
Wait. So they drifted how many miles?
1,186. So they were stuck in ice, but the ice wasn't.
The ice was moving. Okay.
Yeah. So they were probably just in like some glacier kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a glaciologist.
Stop.
So the nearest outpost from the group was estimated to be 350 miles away, known as an outpost known as Paulette Island.
Okay.
So the crew were able to survive initially off seals and penguins and what little supplies they had from the wrecked ship. The crew spent another additional month salvaging the ship before it eventually sank due to the icy conditions, the probably massive holes in its hull. Once the ship sank, they set out. Shackleton devised a plan to hike across the ice to the northern tip of Antarctica. They brought lifeboats from the Endurance along with them in case the ice was to give way, so they wouldn't just all fall into the freezing water and die.
Future proofing, you know. You gotta plan ahead.
It kind of sounds actually smart.
Yeah.
Probably I wouldn't think of that. Be like, no, those are heavy. With reality setting in more and more each day, it became clear to the crew that survival was paramount. Initially, they set out on their expedition with sled dogs. They had 30 sled dogs on board their ship.
Okay. Some
Makes
huskies.
sense. Probably some Malmuts. I don't know what those things are called.
Malmuts.
You know those big fluffy dogs?
Yeah.
So anyways, they had 30 sled dogs, right? The dogs were going to be very crucial for their actual goal of making it all the way across Antarctica. But the problem that they were having with the dogs like 8 months into this journey was they weren't using them. The dogs were eating more food than the people themselves. So naturally, what do you have to do?
Gotta eat those dogs, man.
Yeah. So Frank Wild, who was the second in command, initially made the decision to kill and eat the dogs. He actually shot 5 in one day and then just started executing them, right? He is quoted as saying, "I have known many men I would rather have shot than these dogs." Which
that's sad.
That's really sad, and I appreciate that from I hate people standpoint, and I like dogs. So I relate to this man. It was definitely a survival move that he didn't want to do, but he knew he had to.
Yeah.
The crew ended up trekking over 100 miles, mainly using their lifeboats. They landed on Elephant Island, an island off the northern peninsula of Antarctica.
How does that island get named Elephant Island?
I wonder if it looked like an elephant when they mapped it out or something.
Oh, elephant seals, maybe?
Oh, that's probably more likely. Are those north-south?
I think those are north.
Is that Canada's problem?
I think those might be Canada's problem.
So they ended up on Elephant Island. The island marked the first time these men set foot on solid land in 497 days.
That sounds terrible, man.
Sounds fucking awful.
Yeah.
I'm all for being on a boat, but if you're walking on ice shelves and stuff, it sounds awful. Can you imagine camping out on ice?
No, dude.
That wouldn't be very reassuring. Sorry, I just scrolled way past where I was. So Shackleton concluded that he needed to set out to find help. He wanted to reach South Georgia Island, but unfortunately, unknown to him, it was 900 miles away, and all he had was a 20-foot lifeboat.
They only brought one?
I think they brought 2 initially, but I don't know what happened to the other one.
Okay.
All right, so I'll get to it. He set out with 5 men. So I wonder if maybe they left the other lifeboat they were 28, so with the other 22, 20, 23 people.
Yeah.
So they might have left the lifeboat with the other people.
It.
Yeah. So Shackleton, with 5 other men, set out on April 24th, with only a month's worth of supplies. There were 2 reasons he only chose a month's worth of supplies. One, he didn't want to take the supplies from the actual people he was leaving behind. And 2, he figured that in a month he'd either make it to the island or be dead. So why steal their supplies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty heroic. So 22 men stayed behind, and if Shackleton didn't return the following spring, the crew would set out themselves looking for help. So essentially they would wait an entire year for the guy, which I don't know how many goddamn supplies these people had, but
there's a bunch of cold dog meat
and penguins. So the boat traveled roughly 60 miles a day. The men were tortured by strong winds, freezing cold ocean water, splash them all the time. I guess the sleeping bags they brought were just soaked through. So I can't imagine it was a very fun 14. Yeah, they spent 14 days.
It sounds worse than the 300-mile hike over the ice, honestly.
Yeah, they do more of that though.
Yeah.
So 14 days later, in 720 nautical miles, the men found South Georgia Island. They made landfall on the south side of the island, which unfortunately for them is completely uninhabited. So they had to hike from the south side of the island all the way to the north side.
So did they bring navigation equipment with them?
I don't actually know. It's 1914. I'm sure they had like, better
Compass?
technology than like Columbus.
Maybe a sextant.
Yeah. So like he clearly knew where he was. He's been to South Georgia Island before in the past. So he must have like known the area somewhat. Like this isn't his first time in the Arctic.
Okay.
So I'm sure that also helped, but I'm sure he had some navigation tools. Like they had a month extra to strip the boat. So like I'd probably bring like that big ass compass I always see in movies. I'd bring that with me, right? So unfortunately for them, they landed on the south side, which is uninhabited, and they devised that three of the 5 men were too weak, right? So Shackleton and two others set out at 2 a.m. for some reason under a full moon to hike to the north side where the whaling camp was that Shackleton knew of.
Okay.
Shackleton, I guess, was like good friends with the like head whaler, the guy that was in charge of the place there.
Head whaler.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but the dude that's just in charge of the whalers, you know?
Hey, you gotta get those whales.
I just see him being like, just really. Oh, what's that guy from Futurama? Isn't there like an old like whaler guy that he's up in a lighthouse, but it's the space lighthouse?
I don't remember.
Someone will know what I'm talking
I
about.
just know whalers on the moon.
So they eventually reached the whaling station. They had to cross like glaciers. There was like a 200-foot waterfall they had to cross. Like these guys did not have it easy.
Why didn't they just sail the boat from the south side to the north side?
I think the boat was so like
Destroyed. Yeah. Okay.
Like 2 weeks of a lifeboat being in like the rough like North Antarctic Sea.
Okay.
So they made it, and when they were like cresting over the hill, the first people that saw them were two kids that were playing, and they like scared the shit out of the kids because these guys have been like, what has it been like since October, and this is like April now, or they got stuck initially in October, so that probably took them like a month to sail down, right? So these guys have been out for months on end, so they're all like they're skinny, massive beards, completely unkempt, scared the shit out of these kids.
Naturally.
I guess Shackleton's buddy, the main like the head whaler guy, didn't even recognize who he was. He didn't think it was him until he kept calling him by name, and then he was like, "Oh, Shackleton, Ernest, it's you."
Oh, hey, Shaq, what's up?
So Ernest was able to steal. I wouldn't say steal. The whaler guy gave him a boat. It took him 3 attempts to realize that he wouldn't be able to get through the ice with the whaling boat.
Were these whaling boats outfitted for ice?
I mean, they're on an island just north of Antarctica, so they're probably like decently equipped, but it's still like 1914. I don't know how well equipped the ships are for like ice breaking and stuff.
I don't know if they were like ice breakers, but I think they had stuff to like
There's
make
probably
them
some
stronger.
steel on that hull.
Yeah.
So he failed 3 times using a whaling ship. And the problem that he was having, he's a British citizen. This is a British expedition. You think the British government would be able to help out, right?
Okay.
It's 1914. World War I is raging through Europe. The British Empire essentially is like, you're on your own, kid. Like, good luck to you.
Was he commissioned by the Navy?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, I really don't know. I'd like to think he was.
Okay.
Gives me more inspiration. So after failing 3 times and the British Empire essentially just telling him he's on his own, the underdog stepped in. The Chilean government
Ooh.
gave them a tugboat, their finest ship. And they actually made it through the ice, and he actually found exactly where the 22 men he left behind on Elephant Island were, and was able to recover all 22 of them.
That's pretty sick.
That's pretty cool. There was like a story I was reading of his second mate. I forget the guy that killed the dogs. Whatever his name is, I don't know. I have it in here somewhere. He was essentially like, "Holy crap, a ship!" And then it's just Ernest steering it, and he was like, "Of course it's Ernest!" Like,
Yeah, he's been doing all of this stuff himself.
yeah, it's
too.
literally all him.
Yeah.
Like he captained the lifeboat to from Elephant Island, and then he got his way back to Elephant Island in a borrowed Chilean tugboat.
This guy's pretty impressive.
This guy's a badass. So he was able to rescue all 22 men. Not a single one of them died. So, upon their arrival back to Britain, they essentially just went like unnoticed because, like I said, World War I was raging. And Shackleton, being the goddamn badass he is, he volunteered for the army. He got home and was just like, "This isn't enough adventure." So he was commissioned in the army as a lieutenant major and would serve in Norway and Russia in World War I. He wasn't just done with Antarctica, though. Once the war ended, he set off on yet another Antarctic exploration. This time he wanted to circumnavigate Antarctica in a ship.
Okay.
Rather than walking, I think he was really fucking done with walking. I'm going to sail around it this time. So they worked their way from South America like he did last time, but this time they wanted to stop on South Georgia Island. I think it's a pretty special place in his heart now. He's been there a couple times, and essentially they saved him and his men. Unfortunately for Shackleton, due to poor health issues, he died on South Georgia Island of a presumed heart attack.
So he never made it around?
January 4th, 1922, he died of a heart attack.
That's a real bummer.
While South Georgia was like their first stop before they circumnavigated.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah. He is, on like the wish of his wife, he's still buried in South Georgia Island today. And he has like a really special, it's like a tiny grave, but it's like a really special South Georgia Island grave.
That's kind of nice.
For Sir Ernest Shackleton. The British government awarded him the awards of the Commander of the Royal Order in 1909, and then the Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1918 for his expeditions. So this guy was very well acclaimed with the Royal Empire.
And he's like a war hero too.
Yeah, and he was just like, I just like survived like a year in Antarctica, like dying in Antarctica, like let's go fight a war. I wouldn't do the Antarctica thing first off, and if I came home and they were like, hey, do you want to volunteer? I'd be like, no. Dude, you're going to send me to Norway? It's cold there, too.
Bro, I've been eating dogs for the last year. I'm not doing this.
Dude, I've been eating dogs and penguins. You think I'm going to war? But yeah, he was just an all-around badass.
Do you think they were like, hey, Shackleton, we need you to go fight in Norway, right? And he's like, do they have penguins there?
They're like, oh, penguins in Norway,
Penguin
right?
meat's pretty good, guys.
But yeah, that's the story of Ernest Shackleton and the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's just like a hell of a survival story that like I would not want to be a part of. Like everyone survived. You would just be like, I would be the one who'd just be like laying down, be like, just go. Dude, the tugboat's here. Just go.
Yeah, you guys can eat me instead. Like you don't have to shoot the dogs. I'm pretty meaty. You guys can.
I'll
just
lay
have
down.
Me.
Just do it. All right.
Yeah. That is kind of crazy. You and I have very similar, yet very different stories.
So how does that work?
So, this is the story of the Franklin expedition. Okay.
I've never heard of this.
So.
What year is this? I know you're gonna say all of this, but
they set off in 1845. But
oh wow, okay.
So for years and years and years.
Is this Britain as well?
Yes, it is England.
Yes, he knew it.
So for years and years and years, the British Navy had been trying to find the Northwest Passage. Northwest Passage.
Oh yeah, like isn't that how they found the Hudson Bay and everything, right?
Yeah. So basically, the idea is to find a route through northern Canada, southern
to get to the Pacific.
Yeah, southern like Arctic area, to get to Canada or to get to Asia faster. So they're essentially trying to find like a really, really nice trade route to make. Are you just staring at a lava lamp again?
Yeah, yeah. Just continue your story. I'm listening.
So they're trying to find a trade route between England and Asia.
Okay.
Because that'll make everything easier than sailing down around Africa.
Yeah, like the Horn of Africa or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's Somalia. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the east side.
Yeah. Still though.
Everything is southern South Africa.
Yeah. When did they have? No, never mind. That's a whole nother thing. I was gonna ask when that strait came into place, but
the Strait of Gibraltar.
No, the
I'm
other.
pretty
one.
sure Earth made that.
Yeah, no, the one connecting like the Red Sea and the Mediterranean.
Oh, the Panama Canal.
You goddamn. Your stupid face when you said that. Yes, Ryan. The Panama Canal. Continue.
Okay, so this expedition was led by John Franklin, hence the name, the Franklin Expedition. 2 ships, and all of the ship names in this story, Owen, are amazing. He set out in the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror from...
Who sets out on a, expedition on the Terror?
Apparently, John Franklin did.
Those poor Native Americans.
So they sent out from Greenhithe, Kent. Greenhithe is the town or whatever.
Yeah, and Kent is part
Kent,
of... Yeah.
On May 19th, 1845.
Okay.
And the 2 ships would last be seen in July by 2 whaling ships in Baffin Bay.
Oh, so is this not a survival?
No, it is not.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay.
So what happened? I put 2 question marks in the script.
Oh, dude, that's our podcast.
Yes, it is. So let's just go over some backstory real quick. What?
I'm just amazed you did that. I need to do that I'm going to do that in every single one from now on.
Jeez. So John Franklin was born April 16th, 1786 in Spilsby, Lincolnshire.
God, he's an
England.
old soul.
Yes, he is. So Franklin joined the Navy when he was 14, and he originally worked on the HMS Polyphemus. It's a badass name for a boat, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Also, you're 14.
Yeah.
I like this guy so far.
So when he was 14, he was involved in the Battle of Copenhagen soon after he joined the...
What do they go to war with Denmark?
Damn,
dude, Britain fought everyone.
pretty much. So he didn't actually fight in that one, but he was there. He worked on the HMS Investigator to... Sorry, that scared me. Threw an iPad at me. He worked on the HMS Investigator for a while to survey the coast of Australia.
See, that name makes sense. The Investigator. We're surveying, not the goddamn Terror.
Yeah. So, I mean, Terror makes sense when you learn what happened. But in 1804, he was present in the Battle of Pulo Auro in the South China Sea.
Wow, this guy went everywhere.
Yeah, he fought aboard the HMS Bedford in the War of 1812.
That's a less cool name. I know it's a town.
Yeah.
It's just a lot less cool.
He was also fighting against us, so I kind of take some points.
Wait, in China?
No, in the War of 1812, dude.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about China. Yeah, the War of 1812. All right,
No.
so that dick.
So yeah, pretty much he had been all over the world. He fought in a lot of battles. He was a really accomplished guy. In 1819, he was chosen to lead what is known as the Copper Mine Expedition, which is the first of his great failings. So. Stop. Okay, do you want me to turn the lava lamp off? Is it distracting, man?
Continue.
So him and...
Yes, it is, but continue.
So the 1819 Copper Mine Expedition, Franklin and 20 men set out from Hudson Bay and headed east. Their mission was to chart the Canadian coast east of the Copper Mine River. 11 of the 20 men died of starvation. Those that survived...
Wait, this isn't the expedition where they all got lost?
This is not the expedition.
Jesus, so he doesn't have a good track history with expeditions.
No, he does not.
Okay.
Those that survived survived by eating lichen off rocks.
Isn't that like moss?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And there were some reports of cannibalism, which is unconfirmed but probable in my mind. Franklin himself resorted to chewing on his own boots because he was so hungry.
Oh, I've heard about that. Like, you eat the leather,
Yeah.
right? And you get, like, the whatever nutrients is in just fucking cow skin.
I don't think it has that much nutrients.
I mean, he lived.
That's true. But this gave him the title, and this is a very creative title, The Man That Ate His Boots.
I was expecting some, like, cool leather spin-off name. Just
Nope.
Very literal.
So he was also part of the Mackenzie River Expedition in 1823. This mission was successful, and they charted 1,000 miles of coast in between Alaska and in Alaska between the Mackenzie and the Copper Mine River.
You didn't want those birds chirping in the
Oh,
background?
dude, they're so loud, man. Okay.
Not my fault you live in nature.
So in 1837,
Okay.
Franklin was made governor of Van Diemen's Land, which is present-day Tasmania.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Wow, this guy's gone everywhere.
In 1843, though, he was removed from office.
How many? Wait, so when did he get it?
37.
Yeah, it's still a good amount.
He was governor of Tasmania for 6 years.
It's pretty badass.
He didn't step down. Someone else was get out of here. So he has his ups and downs. You know? So at this time, Sir John Barrow was the second secretary of the Admiralty, and he was pretty much obsessed with finding the Northwest Passage.
Barrow, Alaska?
Maybe.
Isn't that the northernmost city or town in the U.S.? All the way up in the very top left.
Maybe.
I'm just saying. I don't know. How's it spelled?
Barrow.
Yeah, same
As in
spelling.
a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, it's the same spell. That's just curious. If he was doing that stuff, it makes sense.
So I have no idea. But John Barrow had been sending people on Arctic voyages since 1804.
So He wasn't doing them himself.
No, he was like a high-ranking guy
Gotcha.
in the
Okay.
Admiralty,
All right.
and he was like, "You guys go to Antarctica." Or
You can
whatever.
go die. I'll be here.
So this guy really wants to find the Northwest Passage. So who's the best man for the job, Owen? It's not Franklin. Franklin was
my
like
guess
his,
was Franklin.
Franklin was like his 5th pick.
Oof.
Everyone else said no. Like some people were just like, I don't want to go die in the ice.
But Franklin's all for it.
Franklin was all for it.
Good for Franklin.
So Franklin was chosen to take 2 ships to find the Northwest Passage. They were given the HMS Erebus and the Terror. Franklin would command the Erebus, and Francis Crozier would command the Terror. These ships were used on a previous expedition, but for this specific expedition, they were outfitted with like stronger bows, like iron plating.
That makes sense.
And steam engines with propellers. These bad boys went a blistering 7.4 knots an hour. No, sorry, 4 knots.
Yeah, I was gonna say an hour.
7.4 nautical miles an hour.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, they also had reinforced rudders. So like the rudders
They
were
actually
made of iron.
prepared for this.
You could
yeah.
like remove them if you needed.
Damn, I guess I should have researched the ships a little more in my story, huh?
They also had a fancy library with 1,000 books in it.
On a ship?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the
Don't they know
logic is like
books can get wet on a ship?
I guess the logic is that like they're going and they're like, yeah, well, we'll probably get stuck in the ice, so we might as well have something to read.
Oh, they prepared well.
Yeah. So
In weird ways, but
they also
my
brought
guys just ate freaking penguins.
they also brought 8,000 tins of preserved food.
Wow. Okay.
And they planned to have it last 3 years.
Jesus.
So,
So wait, can I interrupt? They planned to last 3 years, but how long were they actually trying to go for?
I think they were trying to go for like until they found the Northwest Passage or had to return. But they thought that these 8,000 tins would last 3 years.
Okay.
So on May 19th, 1845, the crew set sail with 24 officers and 110 men. They sailed 30 days to Greenland and stopped for supplies. When they set off, I believe it was the Erebus, had a leak in it. So men would just constantly be having to run the pumps. And it took them like 10 days or something to figure out where the leak was coming from.
Like when they stopped at Greenland?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they didn't start off strong.
No.
So when they got to Greenland, they sent 5 men home because they all got tuberculosis.
Jesus.
And in July, whaling ships by the names of Prince of Wales and the Enterprise.
Those are dope names.
Yeah. They were the last Europeans to see Franklin and his crew.
Oh, I hyped him up.
They said that they met Franklin's crew waiting to cross the Lancaster Sound. They were waiting there for better conditions until they could cross. So from here on out, it's a lot of speculation. 2 years passed, and they had no word from either the Erebus or the Terror. And initially, Parliament was like, that's just par for the course for Arctic expeditions, so we're not going to freak out.
Yeah.
But in 1848, 2 overland search parties were led by John Richardson and John Ray. And they set out, and they found nothing. Because eventually they started to worry, so they sent out these 2 groups, and they didn't find anything. 2 ships were also led by James Clark Ross. I don't know who that guy is. And a 20,000-pound reward was put up for anyone that could find anything about these ships. James Clark Ross didn't find anything. So this became like national news, sort of like a Chilean miner situation.
Oh, I remember that.
Like, get those guys out.
Yeah.
So in 1850, 11 British and 2 American ships were sent to find them. These ships found the remains of a camp where Franklin and his crew stayed between 1845 and 1846, as well as the graves of 3 crew members, but nothing else.
Is this like stayed because their ship presumably sank, or like stayed because they just didn't want to like camp out on the ship one night?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So in 1852, an expedition was sent by Edward Belcher. Was sent, and it was led by Edward Belcher, and they found nothing, and they sort of blamed that on Belcher not being able to command his men. So everyone hated him. So they just like didn't listen to what he said. So Belcher abandoned 4 of the 5 ships that he set out with and was court-martialed.
Jesus, that's a lot of money he just like left in the north of Canada.
Yeah. And,
Jeez.
fun fact.
Did people die or did they all just end up on one ship?
I think they all ended up on one ship.
That sounds awful.
So fun fact. One of the ships that Belcher commanded was the HMS Resolute. What's that, Owen?
I don't know.
You clearly haven't seen National Treasure 2. The HMS Resolute was a ship that sank in the Arctic.
Is that the one that Sean Bean's on, and then they like explode dynamite, but they go below the ship somehow to survive the dynamite blast?
Nope. So
there's 2 Arctic ships.
so the HMS Resolute was found, and then they got a bunch of wood from it, and they made the 2 Resolute desks. So one.
And then he throws the plank into the river. Spoiler alert, I apologize.
So one sits in the Oval Office at the White House, and one sits in Buckingham Palace.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I had no idea why it was called that.
Because it was from the HMS Resolute.
Oh, you just told me. Yeah.
In 1854, John Ray was surveying the Berthus Peninsula for the Hudson Bay Company.
Okay.
Here he met an Inuit man that told him of a party of 35 to 40 men that died of starvation near the mouth of the Black River.
That sounds like Franklin.
The Inuit men told stories of cannibalism, and they showed Ray items that belonged to Franklin's crew. And this was just like a bunch of silverware.
Can I interject?
By all means.
So are you saying the Inuit just like sat in like the bush and just watched these dudes eat each other rather than being like, I got food like half a mile away?
I think that's exactly what happened.
Good on them.
So, I mean, this story was corroborated by another Inuit man.
Okay.
So there were like multiple Inuits just vibing and like.
I'm sure some guy like stumbled upon them, went back, and was like, "Hey, you guys want to watch some people die?"
So he gave them a bunch of silverware, and they're like, "Oh, this had to belong to Franklin and his crew." So they sent out on another overland journey to find them, and they found a piece of wood engraved with the word Erebus, and another piece of wood engraved with the words Mr. Stanley.
Do we know who Mr. Stanley is?
He was the ship's surgeon.
Good for him.
Despite their findings, England refused to send another search and labeled all members of Franklin's party deceased.
Okay, wait. So they got a story, found some stuff related, like probably went back to England, and then England refused to send them back out again?
Yeah, so that was in 1854.
Okay.
They sent out in 1845. So it's 9 years later. England is like, no, they're dead.
I don't blame England.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It would kind of be nice for like, I'm sure a family is probably just like, I'd love to have my husband back in like any capacity.
Well, so,
whether he has a bite out of his arm or not.
Let me find it. So Franklin's wife refused to believe that he like was dead or like maybe just wanted to find his remains. So what she did is she commissioned her own ship, led by Francis McClintock. So she paid for the ship and was like, "Hey, go find my husband."
She didn't go with him?
She did not. She was like a fancy lady. She used to be a governor's wife, Owen. So.
Yeah, the governor of Tasmania. A lot of perks with that job.
So Francis McClintock, goes off and he finds, some relics from their camp and stuff. He finds a rudder and a boat containing 2 corpses. Yeah, this ship sends out, Francis McClintock goes out. He can't find anything.
Okay.
And eventually, they stop sending searches because, there's just they're not finding anything, and they're like, at this point we're just going to be finding dead people.
I mean, it's been over 10 years at this point, right?
Exactly. So
I mean, I'm all for finding people, but I'm kind of with England on this. I'm sure it's costing a shit ton of money.
Yes. So they stopped searching back then, but there have been a bunch of actually no, there have been 2 recent searches for these ships. So in 2014, the wreck of the Erebus was found.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, I know. You really wanted to do that.
I would love to just go in northern Canada.
And in 2016,
oh, okay,
the wreck of the Terror was found.
Oh shit! So they found both of them.
So
Did they find these through like satellite photos and stuff?
no, they sent ships out.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh okay. Where were they?
Um,
Don't say Canada.
they were abandoned on King William Island. So
I'm gonna Google that.
basically, like, they abandoned these ships because they got stuck in the ice, and then they tried to walk to find some place to
anything.
like anything to survive, and they just sort of camped out on this island until all of them died.
Sounds awful.
Died or ate each other, you know. So
people live there.
there are some theories as to how this went bad, and one of the ones that I was told was that the canning.
Sorry. Continue.
No, you go.
It is the 61st largest island in the world.
Oh wow, the 61st.
And Canada's 15th largest island.
Not bad. But so yeah, one of the theories was that the food that was canned, the canner that they bought it from was like scrambling to like get all this food in cans. So some of them, like back then, you would like use lead soldering to seal up the can, and some of them were like super sloppy.
Wait, you say lead soldering?
Yes. So one of the original theories was that they all got lead poisoning and died.
But I feel like this probably wasn't the first time they have ever used lead to close lids. So I feel like,
well,
right? Like I'm sure that was just like a normal thing that the British Navy did with their ships and their food.
well, but this, like, the guy that was canning all the food for them was like leaving lead solder like in the inside of the can. It was dripping all over it. So it was
Crunchy.
a little crunchy. So that was one of the theories. But one of the analyses of the bones of one of the crew members that they found, they like did it. They tested the bones and they thought that there would be a ton of lead in them, but there really wasn't. So that was sort of debunked. Another theory, however, is, let me find it. So one of the other theories was that they sailed into an inlet of King William Island, whether they knew it was King William Island or not, and they like tried to make their way through it or over it.
Beached.
Well, they didn't really beach. They got trapped in the ice like around the island.
Right.
And so the theory was that they went down the wrong inlet because in another inlet there's just like the ice is way less bad. So it's just theorized that they just
fucked up.
Yeah, pretty much. So
and that was both boats? Or so were both boats found together or were they found separately?
They were found well, one Inuit man said that he saw both of them on the same like ice pack.
Okay.
Abandoned, but just like didn't really notice it. Another Inuit man said he like one of the backs was ripped off of one of them.
That can't be great.
And he like went in there and he found this like crazy smiling corpse because of like rigor mortis.
Terrifying.
Yeah. But I think they found them apart. Like when they were originally found, because they were found 2 years apart. One was 2014.
That's
one
fair.
was
So if you find one, it's not going to take you 2 years to find the other if they're next to each other.
Yeah. So long story short, Franklin, kind of a terrible explorer, but also kind of a great explorer, but mostly a terrible explorer.
I mean, yeah, you know, started being, so what, he joined the Navy at 14?
Yeah.
How old was he when he died?
He was in his 60s.
Shit.
And so
he spent his whole life on the water.
It's, he, so you know how he did that one voyage where he was like eating his boots because he was so
that would make me want to go back.
Yeah, so he apparently lost a bunch of weight for that, and then this one he was really fat, so.
Well, maybe he just stocked up in preparation.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, you know, it's cold, you need some insulation, and if you don't want to eat your, like, shoelaces.
So now there is a statue of John Franklin erected in his hometown of Spilsby, Lincolnshire.
Oh, that's nice.
And one in the city he governed in Tasmania.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Another excuse to go to Tasmania.
Yeah, dude. So, yeah, that's the story.
Strong word.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the What Happened podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. We post a lot of supplemental pictures about the things we're talking about. So if you want to see some cool pictures of Franklin or Shackleton's boats, then check us out at whathappened_pod on Instagram. And for updates, you can check us out on Twitter.
At official_WHPC.
Oh, the What Happened podcast. And yeah, we hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
What happened?